Intensifying risks, MAS says, to global growth. Domestic economic slowdown could be deeper than anticipated this year. Does that headline give you the heebie-jeebies? And can we, in Singapore, avoid recession?
We can't. I mean, we tend 3 times the GDP is from external trade. And if the IMF warned about risks, about perhaps a mild recession even in the US, it certainly will hit Singapore. So in that sense, this is where I think more cautious as far as the MAS and government is with regard to outlook. There could still be upside surprises, mainly from the reopening of China and Hong Kong, which could lift demand in services in other areas. So it will be a very interesting time.
What's the end game to that policy outlook then? And how quickly could the narrative shift at the MAS towards easing the policy stance?
Just as we had, 2 unscheduled meetings last year, because price pressure was higher than expected. So it has to be a reversal of that in terms of price pressure coming up significantly because downside risks, which we mentioned about, start to materialize and high oil prices start to impact consumption more significantly. And we see that pullback in economic activities being broadened beyond just a handful of sectors that we're currently seeing. So I think that kind of narrative have to be played out.
One thing that MAS drove actually for most of 2022 is that they were worried about a wage price spiral actually with higher wages driving inflation and just creating a vicious cycle. Where do you think we are right now in that narrative? Has enough been done to perhaps cool it off? And is that the appropriate thing to do to actually target wages to try and control inflation in Singapore, if that's the MAS's endgame, as she was saying?
Good question, which is the reason why I think some of us, me including, were expecting MAS to tighten again, mainly because of wage pressure and wage inflation still being quite prevalent at this point. But obviously, MAS thinks otherwise, that it may be near to peaking already because they're seeing some sign of softness in the parts of the economy. So really it will be a case of how it will play out. For now, we are still talking to businesses and bosses who are more still worried about hiring. They can't fill position than cutting jobs. So there is still pressure on that front. Now the question is second half of the year.